Now we will start our second module, that is notion of programming languages. If we have to say this precisely, we will say that is we are moving to the next level of regular languages. That is, if any language is not regular, then how the machine is going to accept those strings. Right? Why notion of programming languages? Because as we proceed with our syllabus, we will see that this context free grammar is very important application. It is having a very important application in representing the programming languages. Say we are evaluating something in a program that you can represent easily in form of context free grammars. So if we want to make our compiler work accordingly so that it can debug the program and can do all other things, then we can easily implement it with using the context free grammar. It is also having applications, we will see later on. Okay, so what the introduction says, from regular languages we are now moving to a larger class of language called context free language, and this language have a natural recursive notation. As you will see that ultimately we will design some form of grammar where a recursive procedure is used. We will use a particular thing repeatedly, right? It will keep on calling itself. So you will see that context free grammars is having a recursive notation. In 1960 we found this language, firstly context free grammars, and they turned the implementation of parsers, that is a function that discovered the structure of a program, from time consuming ad hoc implementation task into a routine job that can be done in an afternoon. So previously, as we all know, if we had to make a computer work, then it may take a day or month, so on. But when this this concept of parser came to our notice, then it can be done very easily. We all do programming, and the task of programming is no more time consuming now, but this portion is completely left with the compiler design, and it is not our focus in this syllabus or in the syllabus of your automata or the theory of computation. We will focus on what the grammar is, but how parser is working based on this grammar, that is left with compiler design. We will not focus on those portions here. If we have to define this context free grammar informally, so we will first start with an example. It will be better to understand. So if we consider the language of palindromes, what is palindrome? If we read this thing or a word or a string of symbols from left to right, and if we read it from right to left, the result is same, means the reverse is equivalent to. So here if we consider the language of palindromes, for our simplicity we are considering the palindrome only with two alphabets, namely 0 and 1. So the language will include the strings like 0110, 11011, it may be null, anything. But if the string are like this 011 or 0101, these are not palindromes. So we have to keep in our mind what are palindromes and what are not palindromes. If you want to prove this is a regular language, that is a set of the palindromes is regular language, you cannot prove it. We have learned how to prove a language is not regular using pumping lemma. So you can consider any string, you can divide it into part of x, y and z, you can keep on looping on y part, and then you can contradict your prediction that this is a regular language. So we'll ultimately will come to the conclusion that this is not a regular language. Using pumping lemma it can be easily proven. Or if we want to prove it without using pumping lemma, it is very easily understandable that if we have to prove one string as a palindrome, we have to remember what the previous strings we are visiting, right? And we all know finite automata is incapable of doing this. It is incapable of keeping anything into its memory, so checking cannot be done in finite automata. So even without using pumping lemma, it is easily understandable that palindrome cannot be a regular language. Okay, next, there is a natural recursive definition of when a string of zeros and ones is in language. We are denoting the language of palindrome as L suffix pal. So here obviously there will be a recursive definition, because we can just substitute, we can just keep the starting symbol and the ending symbol as same, and the in between string we can keep on recursively calling it. We will see when we will design that grammar, it will be clear to you. It starts with a basis saying that a few obvious strings are in LPAL, and then exploits the idea that if a string is a palindrome, it must begin and end with the same symbol, right? Further, when the first and the last symbols are removed, the resulting string must also be a palindrome. If you find in the, if you consider the examples given in the previous slide again, you can easily find that if we even remove the first and the last symbol, whatever the string is there in between, it will always be a palindrome. Otherwise, ultimately we cannot say that this language is palindrome. If we keep on discarding the last and the first symbol, always the remaining string will be palindrome. Now if we have to design the basis, basis means what are the minimal string that can be the palindromes. We will consider this as the basis, and then we will use the method of induction to prove that this language is a palindrome. So what can be the basis, the minimal string? It can be empty, that is epsilon, it can be 0, it can be 1, right? Now if we consider W as a palindrome, what can be the strings possible? W itself is a palindrome, so if we keep W in between, in this case it may start with 0 and end with 0, or in the other case it may start with 1 and end with 0 with W in between, right? So no string is a palindrome of zeros and ones unless it follows from this basis and induction rule. Without using this induction rule, and if you can find out any string which is not falling in this category, if we consider the string of only zeros and ones, there can be no other strings out of this that can act as palindrome. So it must follow this property, otherwise it is not possible. A context-free grammar is a formal notation for expressing such recursive definition of language. You will see in the next slides that this context-free grammar, we can formally denote this form of grammars or this form of strings using the concept of context-free grammar. How to represent those, we will see later on. A grammar consists of one or more variables that represent classes of string, that is language. You will see that. Okay. Now here we will again focus on the same example, that is the example of palindrome. We will see the concept of variable, we will see the concept of terminals. What are those? You can understand easily when we will design the grammar. So here we will use only one variable, namely p. Okay. So you will find that always the name of variable means something that can be replaced with other things. Okay, and terminals are those are terminal symbols, means it cannot be expanded further, it cannot be replaced with other values further, it's a terminal one. So you will find that always the variable are represented in capital letters and the terminals in small letters. Okay, in this case our terminals will be 0 and 1, so there is no question of small letter or capital letter. But when we will move to represent the grammar using alphabets, it is a tradition, or it is a, you can say it is a rule to represent the terminals with small letters and variables with capital letters. Fine. So there are rules that say how the strings in this class are constructed. We will classify something with in the variable set, some in the your say terminal set, and one start symbol is there, means how we will start generating the strings. It should start with from a particular symbol, so that will be defined as a start symbol, and we will follow some rules to generate the total language. Okay. Now let us see this example. What were the bases we declared? Firstly, there were three bases, namely epsilon, namely 0 and 1, right? So from production rule, or means say from the one variable, we can move to the induction, the basis symbols. So p can move to epsilon, means if we start generating string, we have to start with p, because here only one variable is present, so there is no question of choosing what can be the start variable. So it is only one variable is present, so it is very obvious that p will be the start symbol only. So if the string is empty, directly from p we can move to epsilon. Done. So if the string is now 0, only 0, so we can start with p and can end at 0. 0 is only one string, it is a palindrome. If it's only 1, it can end with 1 only. Now if it is a string of larger length, so what are the constraints? It should start with 0 and end with 0, or it should start with 1 and end with 1, and we can keep p in between so that it can form a recursive manner. You can put anything in p, it can be 0, 1, so ultimately it will be a palindrome. Here the explanation of rules are given. The first 3 rules from the basis, as I have already explained, they tell us the class of palindromes includes the string epsilon, 0 and 1. None of the right sides of these rules, this basis rule will never have any variable in its right hand side. Its basis means just the minimal one what you can generate. Okay, so you cannot put any variable in the right side in the basis rule, because if we put any variable in the right hand side, it can be again replaced. So we'll never put any variable in the right hand side of the basis rule. So 1, 2, 3 forms the basis rule. Okay, the last 2 rules form the inductive part of the definition. We have seen in our inductive part, there we considered string as w, which were calling the same thing recursively. So here instead of w we have used p. So here if a string starts with 0 and ends with 0, p is called recursively in between, and same for the rule number 5. Now if we have to define context free grammars, we have to keep 4 important components in grammatical description of a language. 2 descriptions or 2 points are given in this slide, and we will see 2 more points in our next slide. So what are the 4 points? There is a finite set of symbols that form the strings of the language being defined. This set was 0, 1 in the palindrome example. We call this alphabet as the terminals or terminal symbols. As I have specified you earlier, that any symbol that cannot be replaced with anything, that will be symbols. And there is also a finite set of variables, also called non-terminal or syntactic categories. These are different names for non-terminals or variables, but most oftenly we will use the term variable and terminal. Okay, so other terms are you can call it as non-terminal or syntactic categories, anything, the meaning is same. And here each variable represents a language, it is a set of strings. In our example above, there was only one variable, namely p. It is such a symbol that can be replaced with the terminal symbols or even with the variables. Fine. So whatever the symbol is there which can be replaced with any other variables or any other terminals, that will be our variable. Okay. Next is, one of the variables represent the language being defined. It is called a start symbol. Start symbol is that variable from where the derivation or the generation of the language should start. Here in this example of palindrome, there is only one variable, so that only will be considered as the start symbol. Okay, there is a finite set of production rules that represent the recursive definition of the language. You will see, or you have already seen in the grammar, that there are some rules, namely p arrow epsilon, p arrow 0, p arrow 1, and so on. All these are called the production rules. Using these rules we can ultimately generate some languages, and these are called the production rules. Fine. So if you have to define more formally the concept of context free grammars, so it is a grammar, it will be denoted as G, and it will have 4 components as we have already studied, namely V, T, P and S. What V is? V is a variable. In our example it is P. See, in the next line it is already written, if we have to define the grammar of your palindrome, that is denoted as G suffix pal, here V consisting of only P. If you had more variables, then P comma that variable comma that variable, and keep on. We make one set of V. It is a finite set of variables. Here only one variable is present, that's why we have kept only one variable. Terminals are what? 0 and 1. So 0 and 1 are kept in a bracket. Fine. Then P. Okay, production rules here we are denoting with represented as A. You can give any other symbol. Say we are defining production rules with P only. P are the production rules, and we will keep on defining. Here we have used A because already the variable is marked with P and start symbol is marked with P. You may get confused. That's why I have kept A here. Okay, so if A is a set of the production rules, we have already defined 5 production rules, and that will come under the set A. And S is the start symbol. Here our start symbol is P, that's why we have replaced the portion of S with P. And start symbol will always be only one, it is not set, it is only one variable can be a start symbol in context free grammars. We will see an example. Here it is a grammar named G2. It is defining a fragment of the English language. What are the production rules present? Here please see that sentence, from sentence we can move to noun phrase, verb phrase, then noun phrase we can move to complex noun, and so on. So all this sentence and all other things present here are what are variables here, right? So we can replace sentence with noun phrase. Noun phrase can again be replaced with complex noun or complex noun followed by preposition phrase, and so on. So what can be replaced, what we can replace here are obviously variables, and others are terminals. Say from article we can move to a, the. From noun we can move to boy, girl, flower. From verb we can move to this. From preposition we can move to with, and so on. So these are the, boy, girl, flower, all are terminals, and others are variables. We will see an example now. It is having 10 variables, the capitalized grammar terms written in side brackets. These are the variables. Okay, I already told you that variables are always written in capital letters. So in this example also we had the variables written in capital language. And if we have to define the grammar as a whole, then we have to define 27 symbols as a terminal symbols, nothing but in English language, you know, there are 26 alphabets and we have to include one space character, that's why 27. We had total 18 rules defined in this language grammar. Now say one language we want to generate is a boy sees. So obviously this will be a language of this grammar. So how can we derive this from the existing grammar? We will see that on next slide. Okay, here what is the start symbol? Sentence, because we have to find out the sentence ultimately. A boy sees the sentence, so we have to generate that. So if you follow the grammars present there, we have to, our motive is to generate a first, then space, then boy, then space, then sees. So if you compare with the grammar, whatever the rules we have to follow accordingly, these are the rules. If we follow, firstly we will replace the sentence with noun phrase followed by verb phrase, then noun phrase are replaced with complex nouns, then and so on. Okay, so ultimately if you fix your goal that I have to generate a first, then boy, then sees, then accordingly you will use the production rules defined in the grammar. Please follow the previous slides where the rules are given, so you can easily compare this with the rules given, production rules given for this language, and it is very easy to derive. Fine. And this is the end of today's class. Next class we will learn how to derive something using context free language. We will see two modes of derivation. Thank you.